So the benefits with the new computer is 10,000, less benefits with old computer. So our marginal benefit here is 7,000. The cost of new computer is 8,000. Then we have to deduct proceeds from the sale of old computer as stated there in the previous slide. So the marginal cost is 6. So deducting the marginal benefit, so the net benefit is now 1,000. So this is the ideal way of especially buying or replacing our equipment. But we simply don't do this. No? We simply buy once our equipment are dilapidated, although we sell that equipment, but we didn't bother to look into marginal cost benefit analysis. This is what is being missed or missing in most of the finance aspects here in the country, especially in the government. We keep on buying computers almost every year without even without bothering whether we have tried to make a study or develop the so-called marginal cost benefit analysis, simply because there's the budget based on the GAA or the GAA. So we simply keep on buying, and chances are we don't even record. And there's a problem of our inventory. I don't know in the main campus, Tintin.
Sir.
Yeah. I don't know with you. This is all academic discussion. Just like Noel in DepEd, no? Or I didn't ask you. Normally, I used to ask my students before, what is your work? Where are you connected? But since I knew many of you, so never mind. I will just ask you probably in the middle of the semester. So just like this, they are studying whether they are really to replace or they are really going to buy. A new computer. By taking into consideration the application of marginal cost benefit analysis. But most of us are really good in, especially for board exam or for whatever exams that we are going to take. Oh, we are hustler in analyzing marginal cost benefit analysis. But the question is, are we applying it in our workplace? Regarding its relationship to accounting, the emphasis is on cash flows. And, you know, accounting, just like now we are following accrual basis, and they are telling that cash basis is not GAAP or general accepted accounting principles. But before the government, the recording was used, they were using the cash basis, and then it became modified cash basis, and then eventually it applies the so-called accrual basis, whatever it means, okay? So when we do accrual, We recognize as revenue at the time of sale, even we haven't collected the payment yet. We record revenue by simply debiting receivable and crediting sales, but we don't bother journalizing here. We're not an accounting course, okay? And expenses, common example of accrual basis is that Soleco, just like you're receiving the bill every 23, 26, or there's the meter reading. But sometimes you are not paying it at the end of the month. So you are simply accruing it, recording it as an expense as well as a liability. Cash basis, again, on the other hand, has some shortcomings because it may result to overstatement or understatement, overstatement of the revenue, understatement of expenses. But in the end, it will just simply be similar to the accrual basis. So here's another example. Nassau Corporation, a small yacht dealer, sold one yacht for 1 million in the calendar year just ended. Nassau originally purchased that vessel for 800,000. Although the firm paid in full for the yacht during the year at year's end, it has yet to collect the 1 million from the customer. The accounting view and the financial view of the firm's performance during the year are given by the following income and cash flow statements, respectively. So this is how we record under accrual basis. So we record our sales even without collecting the payment yet, and we subtract our cost. We arrive at the net profit of 200,000. Or in accounting parlance, they will be using it as gross profit, whatever they want to view it. However, under cash basis, talking about the cash inflow, we didn't include the 1 million simply because we haven't received the 1 million. Nevertheless, we already disbursed 800,000. Therefore, our net cash flow is considered to be negative. In accounting sense, the company is profitable because you can see there on the income statement the net profit. But when you look at the cash flow is negative. So it can only be positive the moment we collect the 1 million. And we have to note or remember that without adequate cash inflows to meet its obligations, the firm will not survive, regardless of its level of profits. Whether you have a 1 million profit there, but your cash is very limited, it's still difficult for the firm to survive. That's why firms has to resort to borrowings. So this is for personal finance only, because in the US they are adding personal finance for individuals. It's like this is an example of your payroll. You have the net pay of 4,400, and then you subtract. You have your outflow here, so you get the difference. So your outflow is more than the inflow. I sometimes experience this every or fortnightly, during during a receipt of our payroll. I don't know whether you have experienced also this. Sometimes your outflow is more than the inflow. It's like the net pay for the month is only 4,400. Nevertheless, the total outflow is 4,835. So good if you have savings in the bank because you have interest income. But for us who are typically depending on the basic salary, and this is the reason why GFAL of GSIS and City Savings, Rural Bank of Hindang, they do really survive because many teachers from DepEd and HUCs are availing of various loans. Probably because our outflows are more than the inflows. So can you relate this now, people?
Yes, sir. True.
Yeah, we don't have to be ashamed. Remember, we're borrowing money from JSIS, but the console loan the interest is quite high. Sometimes we go to Hindang, Rural Bank of Hindang, or other rural banks for that matter. Mm. So if we incur a negative cash at the end of the month, then we need to upgrade our financial habit. Okay. So accountants devote most of their attention to the collection and presentation of financial data because they are the one recording from bookkeeping function. They do make analysis of the data, while financial managers evaluate the accounting statements, develop additional data, and make decisions based on their assessment of the associated returns and risk. This is where they apply projections, of course, or estimations. While for accountants, we are simply following historical data here. And you know what? The challenge in every university, we don't apply cost accounting here. Our understanding is purely limited on the general transactions. But what I like is the hotel or the resorts because they really apply cost accounting there. It's like every revenue section has its own expense. Okay. But I couldn't find it in government, just like I read that annual audited report by COA, And the presentation is just very ordinary. But in schools, we should be applying just like remember SLSU is having a budget of 200 or 300 million pesos. That the financial statements could have been better if the managers, the financial managers, are doing cost accounting. But we don't bother doing it. Maybe in the next generation to come. Okay. And then we have the legal forms of business organizations, the sole proprietorship, just like the sari-sari store in your locality. And then I ask a question. I want to throw it to all of you here attending in our class. Why do we have the presence of all sari-sari stores in our barangays, in our locality? What's the reason? Okay, please shout out your opinion on this. The pervasiveness of sari-sari stores.
Is it to put up naman, sir, ang sari-sari stores?
What? Come again?
Easy to put up, sir.
Easy to establish. Or what else?
So, oh yes, sir. And then, ang provide po, sir, kay commodities.
What else? Easy to put up. Then it's just
requires only minimum capital, sir.
The capital is very little, not extensive as we thought. Okay, what else?
Yes, sir.
Sure ka nga, sir, nga na kay market, kay basic commodities man ang imo gi-offer.
Yeah. Market ready, so-called market ready, because we are buying there 1 peso bitsen, 1 peso garlic, or something like that. 1 peso snow bear, even if the owner is sleeping, and having a nap in the afternoon, all of a sudden a child would say, Majo, unsa man, papalitan ako snow bear. Imagine you are sleeping, then somebody is knocking, waking you up just for 1 peso. Okay, I like that. What else? Is that all you can say about sari-sari store? Any other differing views regarding sari-sari store? Oh, it's here in the chat box. You can read. Items are basic need of the community. Might be true. There might be semblance of truth in it. Easy access to basic commodities at low cost. Low cost, or the owners can buy grocery commodities in bulk, then sell them in sari-sari store at markup. Naturally, they're doing it because most people in the community cannot buy in bulk. I think you remember this one, Nina, in our class before. Yeah, that's the reason, because in developing countries like ours, the prevalence of sari-sari store is pretty common because we cannot buy in bulk. Unlike when you're in the US, you always go to the grocery and you're buying there, because most of the houses there maintain their own pantry. So just like when you're inside a house, there's a small sari-sari store there, complete, from frozen products to canned goods, toiletries, and all other stuff. Okay. But sole proprietorships class, they have unlimited liability. Okay. So what will happen if the owner dies? So how the creditors collect. That's also one problem. We have partnerships. Most common ones are the medical practice, the accounting practice, the lawyers, okay? Or there are other, we have professional partnership. There are also merchandising partnership. Okay? And the partnership here in the Philippines is registered at the Securities and Exchange Commission. Then we have the corporations, the corporate forms of business. We also have cooperatives, no? And there are other non-stock, non-profit corporations. We have the NGOs, we have the civil society organizations, the people's organizations, the rural organizations, but these organizations, especially the rural-based organizations, are simply registered in the DOLI, the Bureau of, there is one Bureau of DOLI. But for corporations class, so we have the ownership is divided into stocks, and then the owners get dividends, meaning there is a periodic distribution of cash to stockholders of a firm, and then initially that is governed by the board of directors. Then from the board of directors, and normally this BOD are elected during the general assembly, just like in cooperative. And there is the president appointed by the BOD. So corporate official responsible for managing the firm's day-to-day operations and carrying out the policies established by the board of directors. The sari-sari store is not strict for business permit. Mataguan ang BIR joke, which is true. It's like every time we hear that there's going to be a mapping, all of the stores here in San Juan are closed. Okay. Why we have to close our stores? Because we simply don't follow. The BIR won't penalize us as long as our documents are intact, are complete, and in accordance with the prescribed documents required by the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Especially now with the train law, if your annual gross income would not reach 250,000 pesos, by all means, you don't have to pay any income tax. And why we have to hide every time there is a mapping implemented by the personnel of the BIR. So we have the strengths of the different legal forms of business. And we also have the weaknesses. But corporation, the problem here is sometimes they are subjected to the so-called double taxation. And for partnership, remember the partnership is dissolved when one partner leaves the firm or a partner dies. So this is from the US. Like most of the firms are into sole proprietorships. Corporation is only 17% out of 100%. However, when it comes to income, it is the corporations that garnered 64%. So it doesn't follow the more the merrier. Oh, look at the statistics here. The percentage of all business income, the sole proprietorships contribute only 10%, partnership 26%, corporations provide 64%, although they are simply 17% of the total registered firms in the country, compared to sole proprietorship that garnered 73%. Okay, this is the tax margin. We have a different taxation here in the country. So we don't follow this one, taxation. And there are other limited liability organizations, no? It's like limited partnership. We have the S corporation. Actually, the S corporation is simply a partnership, but there are more partners in it. No? I was reading, what is an S corporation? Actually, it is just a partnership. So what are agency costs? Costs that shareholders bear due to managers' pursuit of their own interests. As I have said earlier, the managers have different views from the owners of the company. And even as ordinarily employed, we have different view from our managers. We always have differing views. I don't know. So corporate governance, that's simply the rules, processes, and laws by which companies are operated, controlled, and regulated. So talking about internal corporate governance mechanisms that would include stock options, the securities that allow managers to buy share of stock at a fixed price, and it's always being integrated into the employee's benefit package, or sometimes into the pension benefits in large corporations in the US, or even in the Philippines. It's like San Miguel Corporation or ABS-CBN or GMA Network. They are providing stock options to their employees there. Then we have the restricted stock, shares of stocks paid out as part of a compensation package that do not fully transfer from the company to the employee until certain conditions are met.
Services at consulting services. Dito po pumapasok yung kahalagahan natin bilang tayo ang agriculturist. Tayo po ang direktang nakikipag-usap sa mga farmers, inaalam kung anong problema nila, o tayo rin ang tutulong sa kanila o kasama nilang maghahanap ng solusyon para maging mas productive sila sa kanilang mga farm.
Then we have corporate governance. And the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, sometimes it doesn't apply at corporations in the Philippines. But there are US-based corporations here. That's why local accounting firms are also accredited under PCAOB. So in the US, it's common for threat of takeover. It's like there are companies there who are simply barging into a particular firm, and they would say, I would like to buy your firm. But it's not actually happening in the country, but in the US it's common, the threat of takeover. So we are now reviewing our learning goals for chapter 1 of the text. Actually, the text has 18 chapters. Define finance and the managerial finance function. Okay, I'll just upload this presentation later in our group chat. The goal of the firm. Key principles that financial managers use when making business decisions. So in finance, we always talk about the application of the time value of money. Legal forms of business we just discussed a while ago. I like this class from the book of Professor Ivo Welsh. Actually, you can download from Google. Principles of Corporate Finance by Ivo Welsh, IVO, then WELCH. So the theme or leitmotif of finance is on valuation. And he's talking about capital budgeting. Should you take a particular project, or what is this project worth? So this is where we apply the so-called net present value. On investments, he's asking us, where should we put our investment pesos or dollars, given the choice of many projects? Or should an investor choose an investment portfolio? It's like in one portfolio, you have their stock A, stock B, stock C, stock D. Just like I simply invested in stock market just to understand. It's not that big, just to understand so that I can also teach in the class, I can relate. Because as a finance instructor, if you're not also investing in stock market, how can you explain it to your students? It's like every now and then I received an email that this is our cash dividend being added to our equity. I'm talking about capital structure. To undertake a project, again, should we borrow money, sell a share to partners, or finance it yourself? Then there's also another question, should firms finance projects or disperse funds? And he concluded, the borders between these areas are gray because they are all interrelated and connected through the issue on valuation. So this is one jargon in finance, valuation. So what is finance all about? To answer these questions, Professor Wells said that finance is a hybrid of economics, the science of choosing among trade-offs. Also, statistics, the science of dealing with uncertainty. That's why we apply probability here. And accounting being the language of business, just like we have the financial statements, We have the financial statement analysis, which we are going to cover in one of the chapters, one of the topics in finance. And when we talk about valuation, it is forward-looking. He has given us an example here that value today depends on net cash flow from now to eternity. History can matter because future cash flows can depend on the stock of your assets today that generate these future cash flows. And historical experience can help you judge the future. So when we talk about historical experience here, it might be our historical records. What was the result for the last 3 years or 5 years? What was the financial performance? Then when we apply different financial statement analysis, sometimes we do horizontal analysis or we do vertical analysis. You know, class, when we have the balance sheet, especially comparative balance sheet, it is more meaningful if we convert our financial statements into common size. Then you might be wondering, what is Sir Alan talking about common size? We can convert our financial statements into common size statements by applying vertical analysis and horizontal analysis. That is one way of understanding or dissecting the performance, the actual performance of the business. Meaning, we translate the data or the figure into percentages. And there you are able to appreciate. Finance cannot estimate philosophical or moral value. However, finance can deal with such values if you are willing to translate them into monetary values. For example, if you value your being honest, talking about ethics here, at 1 million, it's like all of us value ourselves at 500,000 something, then we can use financial tools to analyze our decisions. However, by valuing ourselves as 100,000, 500,000, 1 million is quite subjective, not objective, because there are no documents that would vouch us. All financial valuation is relative to alternatives. The law of one price, meaning same thing should cost the same. Then there's a natural extension here. Similar things should cost similarly. And accordingly, relative valuation can be easy or hard depending on the closeness to alternatives. So we call it the law of one absolute value, just like this. Using easy valuation method, one share of IBM stock, or one share is already stock here, versus another share of IBM, or one option versus one share of PepsiCo versus one share of Coca-Cola, or one share of Pepsi-Cola versus one share of IBM, or one 5-bedroom, 4 bathtubs or bath and toilet, or 4,000 square foot house on Foothill or Beverly Hills versus a 4-bedroom, 4 toilet and bath, 4,500 square foot house on Beverly Hills. So Beverly Hills and Foothills are almost identical. The hard valuation is here, an example. One house in Santa Monica, where is this, in California, versus one house on Fifth Avenue in New York. Because in New York, you cannot just simply buy a house there. Sometimes you go through a cooperative for you to buy because the house commands at millions. It's like when you're in the outside of New York, you can have a big house for $300,000, $500,000, but not in New York, the financial capital of the world. And we were told before COVID that this is the city that never sleeps. And that was true when I was there in 2009, something like that. It's really difficult to own a house there in New York. That's why people are simply renting apartments at 1,500 US per month or 2,000, depending on the bedroom. Or the White House. What is the equivalent valuation for the White House? Or how do we value a nuclear power plant versus vacation time or exploration to Mars currently versus the treasury bonds or other valuation method? It's like the value of living Antarctica. Where's Antarctica? Is it in the north or in the south? Class. It's like we have the Arctic, we have the Arctic Ocean, Antarctic Ocean. Where's Antarctica located? Just apply or just use Google Library. So what is a project? As discussed also in the previous text. A project is anything that generates a series of cash flows. So we have here an example. This is a repair shop. The cost is 500. Expected earnings is 1,000 per month, starting next month for 24 months. Then there's a company's environmental spill cleanup project. And that would cost negative 20,000 disbursements per year for 5 years. Or an investor purchases a certificate of deposit. That's common. It's available here in Land Bank. You can buy that from a bank for 10,000, and the bank will repay 12,000 in 2 years. Or the project can be an education. It costs 40,000 for go salary for 2 years and pays off an additional 20,000 in salary for 30 more years. Or buying a lotto. That's considered one project that costs only 20 pesos and pays 14 million with some probabilities, of course. So projects can range from true physical investments, it's like bicycle repair shop, the bakery, a restaurant, to pure monetary investments like certificate of deposits, to lottery or gambling. Whatever the source of the funds, finance concerns itself primarily with the actual cash flows coming in and going out. So we have bonds and equity. Okay, there are two particularly common projects, stocks and bonds. From the perspective of finance and valuation, these two kinds of claims are primarily sets of cash flow streams that is paid to the holders of these claims, just like stocks. So when you own a stock, you are in perpetuity, meaning as long as you are the owner of that particular stock, you receive without stopping the annual dividends. But for bonds, you will be repaid also. You get the interest income, and then that is good for 10 years or 5 years, something like that. Bonds usually promise given fixed payments at given fixed points in time. Thus, they're often called fixed income. Stocks usually get what is left over after the bonds have been paid off. Just like naturally, in a corporation for that class, companies or the corporation will pay first the liabilities, and what's left will be paid to the owners. And stock is sometimes called equity or levered equity. So a bond is a contractual obligation by a borrower to pay certain amounts of cash in the future to a lender. So a 30-year fixed mortgage loan is a good example of a bond. The homeowner borrower promises the bank lender to pay a fixed amount of cash every month, just like when we apply for a loan from GSIS, SSS, Pag-ibig, that is similar to the fixed mortgage loan. But in the US, they require, that's the requirement there, just like that is in the form of a bond. But ours is, we simply write a contract. So a bond is simply a particular type of loan and are considered fixed rate loans or fixed income instruments, because if you are San Miguel Corporation or you are DBP issuing bonds, then you already agree at before issuance of the bonds that this company will pay the annual interest income to bondholders. And then there's a question, what is a firm? So a firm is a collection of projects. Remember, there were projects earlier cited in the earlier slides of Professor Welsh. Financed by claims that provide the inflows that eventually should generate outflows. Revenues in excess of expenses go either to new investments, meaning that's the profit there. We're talking about profit. Holders of debt and equity are often called financial security holders. Other claimants can be suppliers who sold product on credit, or the BIR, who is owed income tax or sales tax, like our VAT, our percentage tax. It's like here, we have the sum of the value of all claims is by definition the value of the firm. Firm equals debt, loans, plus other liabilities, plus the levered or equity owner would equal to all future payouts. So meaning, if you own all the claims here, you are the owner of the firm. If you purchase all claims of the projects today, you own the project. So firm value equals value of all current claims, debt and equity, and all other claims. The firm is also all future discounted net flows, would equal to the present value of all future net cash flows that would equal to the present value of all future project generated net cash. If you own the project, you receive all the net payouts of the project firm value that would equal to the value of all future net payouts. Similarly, it would equal also to all future value or present value rather cash of all future dividend, interest, and other payments. While Wills is talking about oversimplifications here, we have to remember that whatever income that we earn, the BIR is also having a stake on it. For example, you can pay out D or the dividends, or you simply D multiplied by 1 plus R in dividends tomorrow. The project value remains the same, whether the cash flows or earnings grow or shrink, or whether dividends are zero today or zero next year, or growing up or shrinking is all irrelevant. All that matters are the project's total present value of all future net cash flows. You can easily reduce cash flows today in order to jack them up tomorrow, meaning we need to reinvest. And it will not make any difference at all. I think I have some point here, the author of the text. So that is for the understanding of finance. On our first session, there were 24 people earlier, and probably because of the connection problem, one was missing. So only 22, including myself. So we are 23 in the room. So questions so far? And it seems this is my fearless forecast, that after you watch the first set of slides, you have now an idea of the topic you are going to turn into a research. Okay. Just like,
Sir?
yes, Cynthia?
Sir, is it individual, sir?
What do you think? Oh, you can do a partnership, probably. Yeah. So that it won't be a burden on your end. I will allow you to have a partnership, a group of not more than 2. That's still a group. Because if there are 3 or 4 in the group, chances are only one will work, and the others are just dreamers. Okay? So
Thank you, sir.
we have a win-win situation here, or win-win solution, whatever. So the most appropriate is simply a do it. Don't be a masinhon trio. Okay? Nothing will happen. Even if you win the Filipino, so what is that? PGT. Masinhon trio or whatever. And how many pesos I spent for texting for them to win, of course. What else? So for the next or for the upcoming sessions, it will be your turn. I will prepare the guide tonight for the different topics that you are going to report. Okay. I need also to hear your voice. It is still early, at 2:59. And I plan to stop the discussion at 3:30 in the afternoon to give you ample time to prepare for tomorrow's session. So I will outline the different topics tonight, since I already have the official list of the students to be assigned. I made a simple paper. I published it. And it's related to finance because it talks about bankruptcy. The old, the old method of calculating for bankruptcy is not taught in the undergrad. I don't know in other schools. But in graduate school, I think it's only Ateneo who is doing that. So we'll also tackle the Altman. So I had a paper that was approved by University of San Carlos, the Botio Journal, but it took more than a year before I don't know what happened, because it was already approved. I submitted everything, and I was disappointed, so I submitted it to another journal. So you can simply go to Google Scholar and then you can write our names, Sereno Adriatico. So you consider that my predicting corporate bankruptcy. I don't know. I have forgotten the title, but I like that paper. What I did, I was simply using the current assets and current liabilities of companies that were listed in the Philippine Stock Exchange. Because there's a formula on how we are going to determine whether the company is nearing bankruptcy or not, whether the company will still survive. The presentation this afternoon, I will upload it in our group chat after we are through in our discussion. Don't worry. Anything that I will present here will be shared to you, so that you have a basis or a guide when you answer the exam. And I will also locate some videos. I will try to download tonight some videos that I watch from LinkedIn Premium regarding finance. I can share it to you tomorrow morning for us to have a more understanding of what is finance all about. But the challenge here, class, is for you to develop a research paper. I may not be successful in my previous MM classes simply because of time, and we're almost there. Just like my development planning class last semester, we're not able to come up because of the COVID thing. We're not able to. But since we have ample of time this semester, our aim class is only to have 5,000 words. That is the minimum requirement on when you publish or when you submit a paper in international reference journal. If not, we can submit it here in our Journal of Human Resource and Educational and Development, something like that. We have two publications in SLSU, which are ASEAN Citation Index. That's already good. But if our paper is accepted by DLSU Business Review, well, that's already a Scopus indexed journal, the better, or meaning the best. But of course, there are other international journals that are either Scopus or ISI, meaning the ISI are Clarivate Analytics or Poblons, no? That should be, because especially the new curriculum, the students are required to come up a research publication. I think they are required 2 publications before they're allowed to graduate. I don't know which one, Noel, at the PhD. Are you required this time?
No, sir, our batch is not yet covered
Maybe
with
this
the new curriculum, sir.
the new curriculum of the PhD TM. But
Yes,
you
sir.
still owe me, okay?
Yes, sir. We're trying to finish that one, sir.
Yeah, just finish your paper and then we will submit it for redirect. Okay. Okay, so I won't hold you long again. So we have to end our session earlier. Anyway, we have a full session tomorrow, the whole day. 5 hours in the morning, or 4 hours and a half in the morning, 4 hours and a half in the afternoon, because of the different videos that I'm going to share to you pertaining to finance, and also will solve. Be sure you have your calculators with you tomorrow, a pen, a paper, some calculators. I'm about to share you this problem, or maybe you can copy this now and try to solve it at home. Oh, this one, class. Problem 1-1, 1-2. You can simply take a photo of it and tell me if you are done. Then we continue to problem 1-4. Okay? So I'll leave you this for a while. 1-1. Oh. Our application of our session this afternoon. That's about liability comparisons, and then accrual income versus cash flow for a period, and marginal cost benefit analysis. Only 3 for a starter. Okay. So copy it. Photo, and then we move to 1-4 later. And also, I'm requesting Cynthia to get the email addresses of all your classmates. I need you to enroll in one course and 2 guided projects in Coursera for your 40% requirement, because that's a requirement class. But you will enjoy the course, of course. It's related to finance. So I'm having the option whether to enroll you in accounting statistics, but it's not that difficult because you will only apply Excel, how to make a scatter plot. So you can ask Excel enthusiasts to develop your assignment. It's a graded, it contains 8 modules. So I'll just announce it later. Okay, once I have your email addresses. Okay, everyone just give your email address to Miss Cynthia Qualteros here. Thank you.
Noted, sir.
So if you have done copying this one, let's proceed to P1-4. Or you want this? This is similar to that slides earlier. So you simply calculate the inflows and the outflows as well and make a comment. Okay, this one. This is on personal finance or finance. Your guide in answering this is the slide, of course, the presentation earlier. So I'll just give you 4 basic problems. So most of you have already started writing your email addresses here on the chat box, and Cynthia can simply copy it.
Sir, we'll post na lang Google Form, sir, for easy collection, sir.
Yeah, it's better. Then you can share it in our group chat as well.
Yes, sir. Later, sir.
So there are questions, just like this one earlier. Copy this. A, determine children's total cash inflows and cash outflows for the month of March. Do not encode your answers, class. You simply write it. And take a picture of it and send it to me or email me, sanjuanadare@gmail.com. I'll write here on the chat box my email address. So for item C, you are placing yourself as the advisor, the finance advisor for Sheldon. If there's a surplus of funds or a shortage of funds.
Sir,
Yes?
na maklaro yung tingog, sir.
Yeah, I don't know because I'm talking here. I'm almost shouting myself. Probably the connection has something to do with it.
Shopee.
Well, can you read this? Can somebody read A, B, C, and D? Kindly turn on your microphone, unmute yourselves, and read A, B, C, and D requirement for Sheldon's. And finally, the last problem. Okay, that's all for now. Thank you for coming, and we'll see each other again tomorrow morning, the whole day, our second session.
At 8 o'clock, sir, in the morning.
Yes, but
Until
normally we
5.
don't start at 8. But I will
Hi,
simply
sir.
schedule it at 8 o'clock. But you don't have to come at 8. Maybe do it at 9. Okay.
9 na lang, sir.
But anyone who's interested, I'll leave this room open starting at 8 in the morning or 8:30. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you,
sir.
and
Thank you.
see you all tomorrow.